I am so excited to introduce all of our listeners today to Lora Cheadle. We're going to talk about healing from betrayal one step at a time. And it's going to be really interesting for you all to hear how this all interweaves with direction, not perfection. And listen up because Lora has such a good message for us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, so excited to have you. Can you please just hit the rewind button for us? Tell us about you and kind of how you got into your space of passion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like all journeys, an interesting journey and one that I absolutely did not anticipate. I started off as a corporate attorney. Somewhere along the line, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't do all of this. I can't be a wife and a mom and hope to work out, have any fun in my life. Yeah, and work as an attorney full time. That was a very demanding job. So I quit and I stayed home to take care of my family. While I was at home, it really started hitting me that so many women were faced with the same stresses and problems that I had, that we felt like we had to be perfect wives. We had to be perfect moms. Our homes had to be somewhat perfect. We had to, healthy organic snacks and, all of that stuff. So I kind of started getting into the mind, body, spirit, coaching, wellness space, and just experimenting and working with women. And I was thinking, this is really fun and I'm really good at this. And this is a passion. Well, then my world turned upside down. I found out that my husband of 23 years had been cheating on me all along. Yeah, for 15 years of our marriage with 5 different women. While I was, doing that, I can do everything for everyone phase. He wasn't even a part of the party. He was off doing his own thing. It was, as you can probably imagine, it was awful because everything that I had relied on, everything that I thought to be true, suddenly I'm confronted with, none of this is true. Mm-hmm. And how do I move forward? And how do I talk about this? Because everybody thinks that you did something wrong, and I'm already this perfectionist. I'm already trying to do everything. And it was just this big mirror in my face. You're not good enough, Lora. You're whatever, too old, too ugly, too fat, too bitchy, too whatever, that you're not enough. All of those demons came up. And since I was in the coaching space and helping women, that was also this big thing that hit me. Who's going to believe me now? Who's going to come to me for help when apparently my whole life has been a sham and I didn't even know it? And who's going to come with me now? Well, it ended up being one of those things that healing is a lot longer and a lot slower and a lot more painful than I think sometimes people realize. And by the same token, it's so much more rewarding. And when you can start connecting dots and letting things go, the way that you just blossom, the way that your heart opens, it feels so good. And suddenly life makes sense in a way that it's never made sense before. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you feel like the realness of all of this that was going on for you actually brought more to you, as far as, were you pleasantly surprised with the interaction that came back at you where you thought, oh, this is going to ruin me? Did people pleasantly surprise you?
Yes, most people pleasantly surprised me. There are a lot of people out there who also see your pain, have their own pain that they're not willing to face, and they just walk away from it. Yeah.
I could see that. Sure.
Yeah. So it was interesting because people were either very supportive or it was like, oop, got a wound, I'm out of here. But it was also very easy to see that it was about them. It had nothing to do with me.
Right. Can't touch that. Can't talk about it. If I go there, it'll
be too painful. So goodbye. Nice knowing you.
Yeah. Okay. So this all happened and you had already, you were out of your profession. At this point, were you thinking, I might need to pull back in law, get this other, where did your brain go with, I want to keep doing my business that I love, but were there those discussions in your own head?
There were so many discussions in my own head. Yes. I thought about going back to law, and what it really did was it cemented my decision not to. The
Mm,
reason that I had gone to law school was because I was passionate about justice and creating justice for people. And practicing law, unfortunately, isn't really about creating justice. It's about cleaning up people's messes.
mm.
And one of the things that I loved when I left law was in the coaching space, in the health and wellness space, you can help change people's mindsets and their behaviors before they get into a big problem, before they have this huge legal mess. And I thought, you know what? My passion is still around creating change. And actually, if I've been through this myself, I truly know what resistance is like. I truly know what fear is like. I truly know how to walk this path and to keep going because I do know what's on the other side. So I thought I'm actually stronger in this space now because I've been there, and this is where I'm staying.
Oh, absolutely. You have this hope story of you. I mean, you can hear it, you believe it. You are on the other side. You've walked the walk. And I think that everybody needs to hear that from whatever space they're coming in, that there's always hope on that other side, but it's having the faith to believe that we ourselves can get there and not just go, yeah, I hear it for them. Yeah, I hear it for them, but I don't hear it from me, is what I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do. How do you start pulling your clients into that space of faith and believing that they too can change?
Mhm. Such a good question because, as with everything, there's two sides to the same coin. My work is all around flaunt, which is an acronym, but flaunt is a happy thing. I talk about connecting to your sparkle and flaunting your most authentic self and, all of that. And it's very hopeful and it's very fun. And like I use the concepts of burlesque in my work to strip out of what you don't need. So there's all this fun, playful stuff. And it's important to keep your eyes on the future and to know that there's fun and that you can have fun and that life is meant to be fun. And the other side of that coin is you can't start having fun and getting there until you've grieved fully. And you have got to grieve and rage and feel hopeless. And it's so hard, I think, as women, especially, but also as moms, to be like, well, I'm just going to spend the night sobbing on the floor because you have all these responsibilities and we're putting on a happy face for our kids and we're putting on a happy face to get through work. And we can't, we can't, because unless we let all that grief come out, unless we move, I'm a big proponent of movement and process it, it's going to fester away and it's going to manifest in disease, anxiety, unresolved stress. So it's that balance of feeling that pain fully and realizing that life is meant to be fun. And here's some really fun things I can do to help myself heal.
So let's unpack this a little further. When you say grieve fully, what is a picture of somebody who's not grieving fully? I know that you've already given a little example, but to that person going, I feel like I've grieved, but I don't know if I really have let it all out.
Yeah. For a lot of perfectionist type people, for high achievers, we tend to go in our head. I can rationalize this. I can think through it. If I read enough books, if I understand why, whatever it is, the affair happened, the diagnosis happened, the job loss, if I can rationalize it and justify it in my head, in my headspace, I'll understand it and I'll be fine. And while understanding is fine and is helpful and can help, we have to have that head and heart connection. I understand why my husband thought an affair was a good choice based on his traumatic childhood, based on his attachment issues. That's the rational piece. I understand it. I have to feel it too. It still impacted me. It still destroyed me. It still hurt my kids. It was actually even abusive to the women that he sought out because it was in such a place of using them. I've got to feel that pain. I've got to just let myself cry and mourn and be in that space of why me and why him and why did this happen? And like understanding it is great, but I can't just cut it off at the neck and be like, yep, I get it. It's fine. And we're going to recover because that's not feeling it.
Right. And so you mentioned, I like this point as far as being a mom and, like keeping it in for our kids or whatever. But do you feel like part of the fully grieving is that it does become a little more public, that like it's not this dirty little secret that hides underneath?
Yes, absolutely. So much to unpack here too. When you look at research, nobody wants to admit that they've been unfaithful or that they've been cheated on. So surveys go as high as 70% of people in relationships say that they have been unfaithful. 70%. I mean, that's huge. And again, the definition of what is unfaithful, to some people, it's actual physical contact. Other people, it's online or texting. So it's hard to really get a number. But suffice to say, many, 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 many people face this. Many, many, many people experience it in some form. And when you get into how many people have thought about cheating on their relationship, that's literally closer to 100%. It's something that everybody thinks about at one point in time when things are difficult. And at the same time, nobody wants to talk about it or admit to it. And the more that we talk about it, the more we bring it to the surface that this is truly impactful. I think it's important, A, that other people can think. I hate to say that cheating is normal because I don't really want to go there. It's an abnormal response to a stressor, but it's something that happens a lot. When we grieve in public, we can see the impact of it. We can see that it is happening, and we can see it's like mental health, that there's something else going on beneath the surface that might not be addressed. And it does bring up things in people around us. My grief shone the light on several of my friends' relationships, because then they would have the thought that, wow, this can happen. There are things I need to address within me, within our marriage. I don't want to go here. I need to grieve. And it also just shows people that we're normal. We're not just Instagram and Facebook posts. We're normal. And they're normal too when they feel like grieving and can't get up off the floor. That's normal.
Right. And so I'm picturing this again, crossing over into so many different areas, whether it's like a leftover childhood trauma, like you're talking about, relationship, whether it's like grief is grief. And it normally, did you see this manifest over anywhere into your health life as far as food is concerned or movement? Like, did that play a role for you at all?
Yeah. It's really ironic. I love movement. I love using movement to process. Dance, yoga, sacred dance. I like move to process. During the fight, when I was finding out about this infidelity with my husband, my toe got broken. So I couldn't move. And
it feels cruel. Like, let's put, I'm already down. Let's just make sure
we keep her down.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was one of those things. I would normally, rage run or go hike or lift some heavy weights and be like, Could I have maybe done something with my upper body? Yeah, but really sitting there, I just quit. I just stopped. So yeah, then I'm not feeling healthy in my body. I'm not feeling fluid. Everything aches because I'm a mover. Then I start gaining weight. Then I'm like, I don't really care. I want to drink some wine because this is horrible. I want to eat some chocolate, and can we make some mac and cheese? That would be good.
Yes.
So, it does start snowballing, and it's like, now I'm gaining weight. I'm out of shape. I'm crying all the time. I look haggard. It was awful. It really started snowballing. And there was that thing, that voice inside, like, don't go here. You don't want to impact your health. But it's hard not to.
So when was the turnaround for that for you? Because I'm sure this is so helpful with your clients too, to be like, hey, you've been there, you've really done it from all aspects. Like, how did you slowly climb back out of that spot?
Yeah, and it was slow, let me say. I don't want to give people necessarily a time frame, because then it's so easy to attach like our journey to theirs. So I just want to preface it with that.
Like that.
When I found out my youngest was about to graduate from high school, so we had graduation parties and concerts and all of these things. So at the beginning, I was not functional for probably a week, like literally not functional. Then I had to go into that superwoman mode because I had parties to plan. I had events to show up. I had to do it because I can't train wreck his graduation. So I shoved everything down for like a month. Then over the summer, maybe for the next 3 months, I started really processing, understanding feeling. And really about 4 months in, I found a tiny bit of equilibrium. I don't want to say it was all better at 4 months because it wasn't. But at about that 4 month mark is where I felt like, okay, I can breathe. My toes feeling better. I can start taking walks again. I'm understanding pieces. I'm seeing where the gaps are that I need to fill. And I'm still crying, but I'm not on the floor all day, every day, uncontrollably sobbing.
And are you just insightful like that, or were you doing some journaling along your process? Like, was there a visual for you to go, okay, I'm changing, or just kind of sitting in the moment and thinking about it?
There was both. I did a heck of a lot of journaling, a heck of a lot of meditating. I think I read everything I could possibly get my hands on. What I really noticed, literally when I was saying I was on my bedroom floor crying all day, every day, I was on my bedroom floor crying. I would wake up and it'd be like, oh, oh God, I remember. So just the fact that I could get up and start processing again, I could, call people, I could do things where before I really couldn't do much.
So to the listener who is saying either they are relating 100% with you right now, or saying, I hear you, but I hear you from a different space. I hear you from I'm feeling a little hopeless. I am injured. I have gained. I have 100 pounds to lose. Maybe it's 50, whatever that looks like, where they're going. I don't even know where to start, and I don't even know what's going to make a difference. What would be some of the love that you would pour over that listener?
Oh, there is such good love there. Expectations are hard. We have these expectations that if I change my diet, this is going to happen. And if I eat we have these high hopes, and the media fuels that, 5 pounds in, 5 hours. Oh my gosh, we're all so different. We have such different body chemistry and stressors. We can be doing everything quote unquote right, but the way that we're moving stress through our body can stop things. My biggest thing is expectations, to really let go of those expectations, because that's what's going to kill you. And as you're creating change, as you're doing things, just to be curious, how does it feel in your body? It doesn't really matter what you weigh. Are your joints feeling a little bit better? Are you feeling a little more energetic or a little more clear-headed? Go with that. And then when you have those days when you fall off the wagon, which you will, you've got to accept unconditionally that that is okay too. Because we have, again, this media fueled image that it works like this, and then you're going to be done here, and this is what you're going to look like. Just letting that go and just moving with what is. And there's such a balance between falling off the wagon for a little bit. It's a holiday party. I messed up. No big deal. Don't train wreck the whole thing.
Right.
Just
right.
little steps at a time. Yeah. How do you feel?
And I feel like that comes with the individual who has already started grasping the idea that it isn't that quick fix, like, it's okay that I fell off. I'm gonna jump back on tomorrow. It was interesting. I had a client yesterday who actually, he was a little disappointed in himself because he had gone to New York over this holiday, and he was like, I just feel like if I had rock solid habits, then I would be, waking up and making the workout habit while I'm in New York and doing the eating. And I was like, I kind of disagree. I almost feel like the rock solid habits to me mean more of what you do the second you got back. Because if you're able to step out of your routine and then step right back into it, that's when routine feels like you've got this. Versus having that expectation of whether it's a vacation, a holiday, or whatever, that we're supposed to be able to uphold this perfect routine going on.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way?
I absolutely feel that way. Habits sure can be helpful, but life is very fluid and very disruptive. Look at the pandemic. Nobody could see this coming. there are so many things in your life you can't see coming. And when you get sometimes too locked into a habit, it doesn't allow for the joy. So I definitely feel like having that knowledge, which is that headpiece, these are good foods. These are good ways to move. This is how I feel when you have that knowledge, then you move it into your heart. How do I feel? I feel better when I move. I feel better when I eat. Then you know it. So then you can be, at Disney, at, wherever, and you might be indulging in some things, but you have, I think, a higher appreciation when you back off of your habits, because you're like, oh, this is fun and this is life. And I can still make some good choices and I can still party and play. And now maybe my exercise, my movement is walking and dance. And that's not I have to be in the gym at 7 a.m.
Right. Right. Like if everybody could find their space of movement, not necessarily even fitness, but movement that they love and they want to keep showing up to, how much easier to show up versus going, I have to. Yeah. I call it fitness personalities, finding our fitness personality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I love
So
that.
did you have a coach that, as you were going through all of this, or who was your accountability source?
Such a great question. It's so interesting because I was having a business coach at the time, and my business coach actually ended up being so helpful around the personal development.
Mm-hmm.
Also, an interesting piece to the story. When this first came out, my husband was like, I did this because you're awful. This is all your fault. Nobody would want to live with you, all of that stuff. A couple months in, he came back and said, you have to know none of this is you. This is me. You didn't cause any of this. Something is horribly wrong with me. And this is like me acting out and crying for help. And this is me, not you. Well, that was a game changer because suddenly I can have a conversation with you because I'm curious. Yeah, tell me more. What does that mean? Thank you. When he came back, we did a weekend marriage retreat focused on infidelity recovery. The whole time I had been seeing a therapist. Then we started seeing a couples therapist. He was also seeing an individual therapist. We did a sacred intimacy weekend. I mean, we just did so many different, affair recovery, intimacy, counseling. And then my business coach, what I loved about my business coach, even though it was focused on my business, because I was suddenly thinking, nobody's going to want to work with me. The work that we did a lot was around kind of that worthiness piece. Like, Lori, you do have a lot to offer. Let's talk about what you did. So my business coaching ended up also being very personal. And I absolutely think we have got to have coaches. We have got to have an accountability partner. We've got to have that neutral third party saying, you know what, that doesn't really make sense. Can you think about that?
I totally agree. And there's so many moments where I walk into my own coaching sessions and think, she's not going to have anything to offer me today, which is always a bunch of hooey.
Always wrong.
I always, always wrong. And this mirror that's looking back at you going, why do you think that? And there's a piece of me that sometimes I'm like, I know I'm going to have to answer these questions, or I'm like going to have to sit in some uncomfortableness for a second. But I really appreciate that you mentioned third party, and it's different talking to somebody externally than like if I was having that same conversation with my husband or my kids or my mom, like it wouldn't do the same thing. Yeah. And maybe
and
it's the money.
I don't know. Yeah. And there's something so magic about just vocalizing it out loud. When I have my coaching package with people, I also always have a Voxer package. And Voxer is an app where it's like a walkie-talkie back and forth. And it's so funny because I'm always telling people, when you have an idea, vocalize it. Hop on Vox, vocalize it by saying it. And it's interesting because as they're talking it out loud, knowing that I'm going to listen, 8 times out of 10, I think they'll be like, oh, hearing that out loud just didn't sound the way that I thought.
So, okay, hang on. Is this a public app or you developed this app?
No, it's a public app. It's just called Voxer. It's like a little walkie-talkie. And I think it's the favorite aspect of my coaching package is encouraging people to verbalize what's going on in their head, because inside it makes sense. And then when you hear yourself speaking it and you know a neutral third party is going to listen to it, it sounds totally different.
Yeah, it makes you really stop, and especially for the person who's super critical on themselves, to be like, oh, that does sound like maybe I
That
shouldn't
sounds
say that.
ridiculous.
Yeah, like way easier to say in your own head. I have a couple clients who have started doing just on their voice memos on their phone, like journaling that way with a voice text or a voice recording versus paper, because it's just with them all the time. And how interesting it is even to listen to tone when you look or hear back and go, wow, I sound like a different person now. I can tell there's like more positivity in my voice or more hope. It's just, it's like this whole nother layer. And that's why I love that you're doing that, because it's this other layer of understanding and insight within ourselves. So very cool. Thank you for that introduction.
Sure. Yeah. Use it. Check it out.
Yeah. Can you get on from your own app and like do your clients things bump into your inbox? How does that work where you get to hear their stuff?
It's just like you get the little notification on your phone, just like you get a text message. So then you just listen to it whenever you've got the time.
So interesting. I love this.
Yeah. Oh, play with it. You'll enjoy it.
Okay. You had written something and I'm almost going to just read this because I think
Yeah.
we might have started to cover this, but there are a million ways we shut down or own self-trust after betrayal, and which causes us to lose track of ourselves, our identity, our worth. Forgiveness is not the key, acceptance is. And I really wanted to, let's
Yes.
hone in on acceptance a little longer, because
Yeah.
this can cross over. I keep wanting to tell our listeners, you do not have to feel betrayed in the way that, Lora, you have felt betrayed. But I think betrayal comes from all different, talk
Yes.
around all different betrayal pieces.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because like in my tagline, I'm like, I work with women who feel betrayed by bodies, their jobs, their lives, and their intimate partners. We have these expectations that I'm going to be young and pretty my whole life, that because I have given it all to my job, they're going to reward me and I'm going to get promoted. We have all of these, we had the expectation pre-COVID that we would always be able to just, go out and see people in real life. I mean, we are betrayed all the time. And I had a big betrayal by a judge when I was practicing law. We are betrayed all the time. And the problem is we're like, oh, well, we'll just forgive it. You can't just forgive something. That's really not a thing. Forgiveness is like the last thing, not the first thing. Unconditional acceptance truly means accepting that it happened. And there's a difference between being victimized and being the victim. We get victimized. When you were betrayed, you have been victimized, and it's okay. It's okay to feel victimized by a health condition, by a bad employer, by the world, by society. To own that and to be like, ouch, I accept that I had this expectation that my body would be healthy forever. I had this expectation that my metabolism would be, roaring forever. I had this expectation that I could start dieting and moving and eat right and I'd lose all this weight. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen for me. That's part of that acceptance, is once you say, here is my expectation, it wasn't met, here is this gap, and there is pain. Now you can get to the now what. I like to talk about accepting unconditionally in terms of a GPS. If you're trying to go from California to Florida and you program your starting point as Texas, you're not going to get there. And how many people, especially like in the body space, it's not that they're intentionally lying, but they want to frame it in terms of what they should be doing because they know they should be doing it instead of what they're really doing.
Dive deeper into that.
Yeah. I know I'm supposed to drink so much water. I know I'm supposed to not eat sugar and processed foods. And I know I'm supposed to move. The reality is I ate a chocolate chip cookie for breakfast this morning. The reality is I didn't have a glass of water. Instead, I grabbed it's a sparkling water, but still I grabbed it as I was running to my office, shoving in my cookie. If you were to tell me, how is your diet? How is your exercise? I'm going to see myself as the best case scenario. Oh, I'm good, Lindsay. I'm a clean eater. And I do really, really well. It's just a cookie. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm not going to track that today because it was just a cookie and I know I did wrong. I won't track it.
Yeah.
It's those little lying to yourselves because we don't want to admit it. People will say, I don't want to start working out until I lose some weight. I get that, but you're not really going to be losing that weight unless you're working out. Everybody wants something else first, and we see ourselves as the best case scenario of where we are, and we don't really accept where we're at. We don't really accept that we've got bad habits. We know we've got them, and we have a starting point that's different. You're only going to change if you really truly own that starting point. Nope, I eat chocolate chip cookies for breakfast. I don't make the time to go to the gym. I'm super high stressed. I just put on this smiling face, but I'm really, really fine. And I'm not drinking my water. And I rated my workout as a level 9-10 when really it was a 3-4 because I didn't want to break a sweat because I was going somewhere this afternoon.
Do you know what I'm loving about this is I think we could turn it on its head too. And for the individuals who give themselves zero credit, and yet as we as a coach go in and we're like, what? You are drinking water, you are moving, you are, it doesn't look like what your neighbor's doing, but it
Right.
looks good to me. Like,
yes. Oh,
so
thank you for saying that because I will go on hikes with my kids. My kids love hikes, and I'll go on an hour hike. And then I'll come home and I'll be like, I haven't worked out today. Oh my God, I am such a loser. I didn't do my workout. And so often people will be like, you hiked for an hour. Yeah, but that was a hike. That wasn't a workout.
yeah. Right. And then again, to have somebody else external be like, you have to call it that. I thought that all the time with younger kids. I'm like, I have to call this walking and pushing the stroller to the park my workout today because I don't know when else I'm going to fit it in. But it takes time and like grace and believing to that it all counts, it all adds up.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And it's hard. And that's that expectation. But unless we accept unconditionally, we're always going to have stories and loops in our heads.
yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And thank you. That is, it goes right back to acceptance, which we were talking about. And we have to, if we don't accept the good we're doing or don't accept I'm not going to say bad. I always remove good and bad out of my lingo, but the stuff that we could work on, then,
Right.
like you said, our starting point's inaccurate. I love that. I love the GPS example. That's so good.
Yeah. And I love that you said not good or bad because I always talk about the icebergs. Like an iceberg, when you're on a cruise and you're looking at the gorgeous icebergs, they're really good. When you're on the Titanic, an iceberg is really, really bad. The iceberg didn't change. It's just your expectation around it.
Perception. Yes. I had a therapist on one of these calls one time say the most underutilized tool that our clients could be using is shifting of expectations. And your iceberg example is a perfect visual on why, because yeah. And we don't think about I should shift my expectation. It's more like, no, I want this. And how am I going to get there? And I'm going to keep beating down that same door until I get there. Hang on. And this is where a coach can help. How and where do people find you?
Yeah, I'm across all social media, Lora Cheadle, and Lora is Lora. There's a singer out there with the Lora the traditional way. So that's why I say that. Okay. My website is loracheadle.com. And I've got a couple of fun downloads. One is if you go to www, I was like, where are those letters? nakedselfworth.com. There's a Sparkle After Betrayal Recovery Guide. And even though it's geared a little bit more towards the infidelity space, it is any kind of betrayal. It's those steps that you can take, just like you were talking about the direction. It's the 1, 2, 3, start here, accept this, move here, accept that, move here. So nakedselfworth.com for the Betrayal Recovery Guide.
Yes. Okay. And so same question with your podcast. I know that you're in the betrayal space as well with that and infidelity, but again, not necessarily just that.
No, because I just recorded a few podcasts yesterday on around the corporate betrayal. And, all of those different ways that we feel betrayed. I've got a TED Talk coming up, and it's on societal betrayal, how society betrays women with its expectations. So yeah, my podcast is called Flaunt. Find your sparkle and create a life you love after infidelity or betrayal. And that or betrayal truly means all kinds of betrayal.
Yeah, those little words or makes a big difference. Yes. I'm so excited to go catch a couple of your episodes. I'm gonna pull you up on my library. I'm gonna friend you on Instagram. We're gonna keep this relationship going.
Please.
Okay, so podcast, we've got some free awesome stuff for our listeners. I will put everything in the show notes. What am I not asking that I should be?
Something that is really fun. My book is called Flaunt. Yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
It was released by New World Library in 2019, right before the pandemic. So my whole book tour squashed.
So it's beautiful, by the way. I love your cover. Oh no, and we just froze. You're back. Okay.
There
We'll
you go.
edit that.
I know. I was like, wait a minute. She disappeared.
I know. Don't worry. That'll all get edited. Go back to we froze when you held up your book and
Yeah,
you
I
were
was
talking
going to
about
say,
your world, your tour.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay. It got
yeah.
canceled, your tour.
The book tour totally got canceled because of COVID, which made me so sad. But that's okay. Hopefully we will be back soon. The book is called Flaunt, Drop Your Cover and Reveal Your Smart, Sexy, and Spiritual Self. And I love it because there's a few meditations in here. There's exercises that you can do. Everything is a spiral journey. And those are those steps. Do this. Maybe skip over that. Do this, do this, do this. So there's ideas and steps around accepting unconditionally, around F stands for find your fetish. So around finding fun things that light you up. L is laugh out loud, bringing the humor to challenging situations. AU, the golden center of flaunt, how to accept unconditionally, and how to navigate. That's that positive, negative iceberg thing. How do you navigate? And then the T is on trusting your truth, how to always listen to that still small voice inside and use that discernment to truly figure out what is right for you in every moment.
Oh, so good, Laura. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you for showing us that and explaining it. And again, we'll put, I'm guessing we can get it on Amazon, anywhere else that you'd like to send our listeners.
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. New World Library is my publisher. And in December on their website, there's always a 50% off sale. Oh, nice. So check that out too.
Yes. And I don't want to date our podcast, but if a holiday happens to be coming up at some point when you're listening to this,
and it's every year.
Guest.
So
yes. Well, maybe the TED Talk and the book, like tour, everything is just about to get exciting for you. So congrats. Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep changing the world. Let's send our listeners off with one last tidbit from you of if you could wrap your arms around them and hope and pray that they hear this one thing from you, what would it be?
That goes to that T, trusting in your truth, that it is really important to always listen and to feel into what sounds good and to what feels good for you. We've got a heart, we've got a head, and using them both to go inwards, to just know and to trust that knowing. Because what I say is truly, you are always more than enough, just as you are. Just listen to that and flaunt exactly who you are.
So good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.